Hello and welcome to the Intermezzo Championship. Stage 3 of the World Championship has already started, but with me being the finals last year in the new mode of the World Championship, I only have to get involved in Stage 4, so now we have some time to maybe take a look at the current Intermezzo Championship season. But if you are already hyped for the World Championship and want to see some gameplay, I strongly recommend checking out the channel of Kogi23 and also the channel of Papa Boris, because both of them are already playing the World Championship, have already covered games from it, from Stage 2, and Papa Boris also from Stage 1, and will also cover the games from Stage 3. So if you want to see some World Championship gameplay already, definitely check out their channels. And also, if you remember, not that long ago, I made a video called Through the Ages History, and at the end we took a look at which players were in the divisions 4 years ago, and there was also the player Sandwhale, and I said that he has a YouTube channel, that he had a YouTube channel some time ago where he used to do some videos. Yeah, and he now, not that long ago, started playing again, and now actually posted a video again. So, yeah, if you are interested in that, also check out his channel. You will find the links to all of those channels in the description. However, I made the decision, as I recently just linked to a bunch of channels, I now will, in the description of my videos, will always have a list of all the Through the Ages YouTube content creators with a link to their channel, so people can just take a look into the description of the video and then maybe find out what other Through the Ages content creators are out there. I sorted them into active and inactive YouTube channels. I didn't think about how to order them or anything. I just put them right in there, without any order or something. So yeah, please take a look at the description and maybe see if there are some other channels that are interesting for you. And also, in case I forgot a channel, which definitely could have can happen because I just made this before recording the video relatively quickly. So if I missed out on maybe a channel, then please let me know in the comments. Alright, but now without further ado, we can start with taking a look at the Intermezzo Championship, and as it is already actually quite a time ago since I last covered games from the Intermezzo Championship, I will now give a very short breakdown on how this tournament is working for those of you who aren't familiar with this tournament. So you can see there are 485 players in this season, and all of the players are sorted into groups of 5 players, and there are different divisions. There's 1 Grandmaster League, 2 Master Leagues, 4 Platinum Leagues, 8 Gold Leagues, 16 Silver Leagues, and so on, and in each group and there are 5 players. Those 5 players will play 6 3-player games, and the scoring of those 3-player games works that the winner gets 5 points, the second plays 2, and the loser 0 points. And after those 6 games, after every player played 6 games, we then have the final standings of each group. The winner will move up to 1 division up, and the 2 last places will move 1 division down. It's a relatively old tournament. As you can see there, we are already in the 20th season, but that's actually not really correct because that's only the 20th season since this tournament has been on the tournament website, but this tournament already was played before the tournament website was created, so in reality there are even more seasons. I have things like maybe 7 or 8 more seasons, I didn't check that. So a really old tournament, a lot of seasons played. I played in the Grandmaster division for a very long time, 15 seasons in a row, an achievement that I'm a little bit proud of because only the top 3 players stay in the league every time, so I do think it is a nice achievement. However, recently, maybe starting with the World Championship final and then especially also after that, I had definitely a dip in my performances and I got relegated into the Master division. I also got relegated in the International Championship, and both of the last Grandmaster seasons I finished at the last position, and I definitely want to turn this dip into my performances around and hopefully come back into Grandmaster immediately. And now we will take a look at what players will be awaiting me in the Master League, and yeah, so we will take a look at my opponents now. And maybe one nice thing about being in Master now is that I get a chance to play against some players that I maybe didn't play that often already against, because to be honest, especially in the last months, I played that many games against PV4 and Martin, which is nice. It's very nice to play against them, but it's also nice to maybe have a little bit of variety in the opponents, and that is at least achieved now with me being back in the Master Division. And we will take a quick look at the opponents. I will tell you about each opponent, how the last 2 seasons in the Intermezzo Championship went, how they performed in the last International Championship season, and then also how they performed in the World Championship 24, how far they managed to go in this tournament. After we have taken a look at those players, we will take a quick look at the Glicko rating using the new nice Glicko rating website, and after that we will finally take a look at the first game. So the first opponent in the group is Arne, and Arne in the last 2 seasons of the Intermezzo Championship climbed very quickly. 2 seasons ago he played in the Gold Division still, but managed to win it with 24 points, finishing before Ipogi in that group, who at the moment is playing the Grandmaster Division of the International Championship. And then in the last season, he again finished with 24 points, again a very strong result, this time in the Platinum League, and with that made it to the Master League. I think now is playing for the first time in the Master Division in the Intermezzo Championship. However, he did already play in the Master Division in the International Championship. In the last season, however, things didn't go that great for him. There he got relegated back to Platinum, but he has now a little bit of Master experience already from there, and in the World Championship 24, he managed to go into stage 4 of the tournament. So a player who has not a lot of experience playing at Master and Grandmaster leagues, but already a little bit, and with his performance in the last Intermezzo Championship seasons definitely showed that he is on a rise, and let's see if he can continue that this season. Then the next opponent that we are having is Lech, and Lech actually played already 1 season in the Master Division in the last season of the Intermezzo Championship. There he finished at the 2nd position with 17 points, so a very nice result, only 2 points behind the leader, Martin, who also got relegated to Master but is now back in Grandmaster. And Lech also played against the other opponent that we are talking about next, Funestus, who and finished 1 point before him. So those two already faced each other in the season before, with the slightly better outcome for Lech. 2 seasons ago, Lech still played in the Platinum Division, finished there with 22 points, finishing for example, before Mayondo, who is actually the winner of the last International Championship season. So he definitely has shown some strong results recently. In the International Championship season, he's played in the Platinum Division in the last season, and finished with a solid amount of points, with 18 points, which was at the end not enough to get promoted, but he will stay in the Platinum Division. In the last World Championship, he actually made it to stage 6, relatively far into the tournament. So a player who had definitely recently some strong results, and also is still climbed into those higher divisions not that long ago. Then we have Funestus, maybe the player who is already the most established in the higher divisions, because he actually already played some seasons in the Grandmaster Division in the International Championship. And I think he might have also improved recently, because I remember that he got promoted in the International Championship into the Grandmaster Division, but in his first season he didn't perform that well, got relegated again immediately, I think with finishing at the last position. However, he then got promoted to the Grandmaster Division again very quickly, and in the last season actually finished at the 2nd position, winning the silver medal in the International Championship in the season where I got relegated. So he finished before me, showing some very strong results. And in the last Intermezzo Championship seasons, he in the last season, as already mentioned, played in the Master Division together with Lech, finished 1 point behind him at the 3rd position, but with that at least managed to stay in the Master Division. In the season before, he also still played in the Platinum Division, finished there with a very strong result of 25.5 points. And he actually didn't play in the last year's World Championship, and with that didn't have any result there. And then the last opponent out of the 4 opponents that I'm having is RutgerHauer, and he in the last 2 seasons also managed to rank up quite nicely. 2 seasons ago, he, same as Arne, played still in gold, managed to win his gold group with 22 points. In the last season, played in platinum, with winning his group with 19 points, finishing before Mayondor, the winner of the last international championship season, and with that got ranked up to master. And I think for him it's actually the first time to play in the master division, both in Intermezzo and international championships, so that is very nice for him. In the last international championship season, he managed to win his gold group with 26 points, so he will then playing in platinum in the next season. And maybe his biggest success so far was his very nice performance in the last World Championship, because there he managed to go up to stage 7 and managed to go into the top 13 of all of the players of the tournament. So a very, very strong result by him. In the last stage, then he finished at the last position, but it was a very nice performance and result by him to make it that far into the tournament, showing that he is also quite a strong player. And now, as you see, a lot of those players are not really established players who have already played a lot of seasons in the top divisions, which I think is very interesting. It's interesting for me to play now against them and learn a little bit about their play styles and maybe see how I will manage to perform against them at the end of the season. My goal is, of course, to go back up to Grandmaster, but that won't be an easy task, especially for Nestus, who really showed a very strong performance in the last international championship season. Could maybe be a strong opponent, but also all of the other players definitely are on the rise, so that will be interesting. And now we will be taking a quick look at their Glicko rating. And to take a look at the rating, we will be using the new Glicko rating website, where it is very nicely possible to just compare all of the players. And I already prepared this here. And yeah, so here we can see all of the 5 players in my master group. There are also some other names on the bottom. Please just ignore them. Those are just there because they either have the word name Arne in their name or the word Lech. So ignore the top, the 3 players on the bottom. But then we have the 5 players. You can see the rank of how good the player is and compared to all players on the left. So I'm still in the 3rd position in the ranking, and my conservative rating is still the best out of those opponent out of us in the group, even though I had some bad performances in my recent games, but I was for a long time now the number 1 player in the rating. Sadly, I now dropped a little bit, but that's what happens if you not that great results going. So but I'm still out of us 5 in the group the highest rated player. Then we have Funestus, as you can see, is at the 13th position, so also very, very high in the rating, has a rating of 1848, definitely not bad, managed to improve that also with his last strong international championship season. Then we have Arne, who is at the 37th position in the rating, also a very solid placement. Lech is 20 points behind him and about 30 rating points at the 57th position. In RutgerHauer, who is maybe, at least according to his rating, the underdog in the group, but not by a big amount. He is also only 20 points behind, also again about 30 rating points behind Lech. So all of the players are in the top 100 of the Glicko rating. And but of course, the Intermezzo Championship is a pure 3-player tournament, so it is of course also very useful to maybe just take a look at the 3-player ratings, which is possible with the new Through the Ages Glicko rating website. And as you can see in the 3-player rating, I'm actually still in the 2nd position, so 1 position higher. Funestus is a little bit lower, is only in the 19th position. Arne is a little bit lower with being in the 39th position. Lech is a little bit higher with being the 51st position. And then RutgerHauer is actually, when we only take a look at the 3-player games, not in the top 100. So maybe the 3-player games are actually not his ideal player count. Nonetheless, he managed to rank up very quickly in the last 2 seasons, so that we maybe shouldn't be fooled by his ranking here. So with that, you have now a nice overview over the opponents. I hope it was not too long to talk about all of this. I think it was maybe nice so that you have a little bit of knowledge about them. And with that, we will now take a look at the first game, which will be a game against Lech and RutgerHauer. In this game, I am playing in the 1st position, and first of all, as always, we can take a look at Leaders and Wonders. And I think there's a little bit of a mix. We have some lab leaders with Sid Meier, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs, but also some theater leaders with Fleming and Chaplin. There's no Hollywood, no spaceflight, but there is the internet, no Red Cross as well. Then we also have Steve Jobs, of course, as a lab leader. I think I mentioned him already. We have Churchill and Gandhi, who are important maybe for the military as well as the Manhattan Project. We have ocean liner service, but no Maria Theresa. We have James Cook, but no Suez Canal. We have James Watt, but no railroad. So not a lot of those very special card combinations are there. We have Bach for some theater synergy, Darwin as a culture leader, we have two military action leaders, and then Newton as a strong economic leader. Apart from the ocean liner service, maybe not the strongest wonders, even though the statue, of course, can be very fine. In H1 we have the two science wonders with Silk Road Universitas, the two happy face solution wonders with Forbidden City and St. Peter's Basilica, also the Taj Mahal. We have one military action leader with Jan Žižka. Genghis Khan and Barbarossa can help with the strength. There's Columbus, but without a Suez Canal. There's Michelangelo, potentially together with St. Peter's Basilica. We have Eleanor as a nice transitional leader, and Leonardo for some lab and printing press synergy. I'm in the first position, and I at the end made a decision to go for the Roman roads here, which I think is probably the best decision here, because I think it is quite likely that one of my opponents will take the pyramids, and I thought it is quite likely that actually RutgerHauer immediately will take the pyramids, even though it could be a bit risky for him, because maybe if no leader will nicely come out and the others could maybe be taken away, maybe that could be a bit annoying, but actually Lech can only take one of those leaders away. I mean, if he goes for Clio and stockpile, then there's maybe the danger that I could go for Aristotle, but I don't think there's a big danger that he will miss out on the leader completely, as then there might just be new leaders revealed. So I thought maybe we'll just go for the pyramids, and then Lech can not take both Clio and Confucius away, meaning I might get one of those two leaders, and I think that would be a very fine outcome. If it should happen that both Clio and Confucius are taken away by my opponents, then there's still Aristotle left and Sun Tzu. Aristotle could maybe be fine, even though he's not ideal with the Rome roads because of many civil actions that a wonder takes, so you don't have that many civil actions to take technologies with Aristotle, but Sun Tzu in first position could maybe also be fine. So I do think I should get a nice leader, and if I just, for example, go for Clio, then Rome roads and pyramids might be taken away. Maybe there's the chance for the Acropolis to drop to 1, but I do think the combination that I will get with now taking the Rome roads is likely better than what I will get with just taking Clio. RutgerHauer then indeed goes for the pyramids. And Lech makes a little bit of an interesting decision with going for Ashoka, patriotism, and stockpile. I think it is interesting because he lets Confucius be available for me, which I think is quite strong for me. Ashoka in third position is definitely a very strong leader. He gets him together with 2 yellow cards, now needs only 2 more colors, can activate his bonus very nicely. There are some nice transitional leaders in the game. And if he goes for Confucius, I might then potentially go for Sun Tzu, and that could be a bit annoying, playing in last position with Confucius against Sun Tzu. So maybe Lech was a little bit afraid of that. Maybe he also was hoping that I will actually go for a bit of a denial pick here, because that is actually something that I need to consider for my next turn. And with that was maybe hoping that I won't even go for Confucius at the end, because at my turn, Confucius will be in the discard spot, while Aristotle won't be in the discard spot. And if I will go for Confucius, I will leave Aristotle for RutgerHauer, who has the pyramids, and pyramids and Aristotle is a very nice combination. And the additional civil actions allows very nicely for Aristotle to take a bunch of technology cards and score a lot of science. So I at least considered here if maybe I should go for Aristotle myself, denying him from RutgerHauer, who then maybe has to go for Sun Tzu. But at the end I figured that Aristotle with the Rome roads is just not really a nice combination, and Confucius is just such a strong leader that I think I would be shooting myself in the foot with that move instead, and the damage that I do to myself is maybe just bigger than what I maybe do as a damage to RutgerHauer. When I go for Aristotle, he might just go for Sun Tzu and might also have a fine game ahead of him, so I at the end just went for Confucius, as I think he's very nice. I can now just see it, I don't have to spend any actions to get a science from him, so I think he works very nicely together with the Rome roads. I'm guaranteed to seed at the next turn to be able to seed, meaning there is the chance to immediately reveal 2 resources, which could allow me to finish the Rome roads very quickly, and with all of this I think it's the best decision to just go for Confucius and not think about a denial from Aristotle. However, that of course means that RutgerHauer has now a nice combination available. He will go for Aristotle, just builds a mine, increases his population, so does very standard stuff. Lech will go for Ashoka now, has 2 wonders that he can choose from, and he makes the decision to go for the Colosseum, which I guess is a fine decision, even though it gives me now the Engineering Genius for 1 civil action, which I was happy about, so maybe because of that the Acropolis could be considered. But if I end up not taking the Engineering Genius, RutgerHauer might also just get it for 1, as I might not be willing to take it for 2 potentially, even though I might not have that much else to do, so I might be willing to take it for 2. So yeah, maybe that could have been a reason to take the Acropolis, but of course Lech also has to look what he thinks is best for himself. I, as you can see, seeded a developed territory into the deck, which I was not too happy about, because I'm at the moment not at all prepared to win a colony, so it is a bit luck dependent on whether I draw some defense cards or not, or if I maybe will in the near future have the chance to grab the cartography. Also with keeping the colony in hand, I maybe could have had a chance to go for Columbus as a nice transitional leader at the end of the age, after getting a lot of value out of Confucius. But I also really didn't like it to see the barbarians. We all have a wonder that isn't producing any culture, meaning that with me probably seeding the most, I might be in the culture lead, and then I really would be awkward to always have to be the strongest to avoid getting a population loss. I just seeded a colony, hoping that I maybe will be able to win it, or that maybe it doesn't help out one of my opponents too much. At least there's no Suez Canal in the game. That made it a little bit more less bad for me to seed this into the deck. The development of civil life is revealed, and the question is basically, do I want to maybe build a second lab with it? Then I can do this, have still 4 civil actions left. I will definitely take the Engineering Genius, and I have a lot of free civil actions, especially thanks to the development of civil life now. And the question is, what cards do I want to take? And I do think it's relatively clear that I want to go for the Masonry. I don't want to delay the lab to maybe use the urban growth in it. I don't want to take the frugality. Michelangelo can maybe be interesting, but I think it would be too much of a gamble here, and there are other interesting leaders that I can go for. So I think the Masonry is very interesting, works very nicely with the Rome roads. I have some additional signs thanks to Confucius, and there's also the Silk Road in the game. And Silk Road with Masonry is of course something that I like quite a lot, but also for some other wonders like Forbidden City, maybe Ocean Liner Service later on, the Masonry might be quite nice, might save me some resources when I go for some urban buildings. So I also thought that I want to take this card if I build now the second lab. With the development of civil life, I can take the Engineering Genius, I can take the Masonry, and then I could make the decision to just develop the Masonry to not go into consumption, meaning while I don't save a food from the development of civil life, I could maybe make it to not go into consumption yet, already have the Masonry developed, maybe be prepared to finish the Rome roads very nicely. But then I would have some food accumulated, I would save some resource when building the labs, so I think it might make myself a little bit inflexible if there are some additional resources revealed. Then I might need to, when I finish the Rome roads, just use my last civil action to increase my population. I might not be able to take a card. At the moment there are no cards coming down the road that I necessarily want to take, but it can always happen that there are some new cards revealed that might be interesting. And with that, with making me just a little bit more flexible, I made a decision to use the development of civil life to increase my population, going very early into consumption, but at least saving 1 food. And also, if I should build the Rome roads very quickly, the additional yellow token will actually make it that I go back out of consumption again, meaning that maybe it's not too bad to already go into consumption now. And then I build a lab to get my science production going. I have a free population for the development of religion in case it should be revealed, and I will take the Engineering Genius and the Masonry. It's of course not ideal, because with having the Engineering Genius I won't be able to save 2 civil actions with the Masonry in the Rome roads, but it was still nice enough for me that I at the end was willing to go for the Masonry. At the end of my turn I will draw 2 cards, the Knowledge of the Ancients and the Crusades. Maybe the Knowledge of the Ancients will be the event that I would like to see the most. RutgerHauer builds the second lab with the development of civil life. With that it is that if the development of markets or crafts are revealed, he has now enough resources to finish the pyramids at the next turn, and then he takes the urban growth and the bread and circuses. Now it's Lech's turn. He also builds the second lab with the development of civil life, increases his population, goes into consumption relatively early, and then he goes for Michelangelo and a drama, interestingly. Skips the knights for now. Maybe he has already drawn an infantry tactic, or is maybe not too much concerned about potentially missing out on the knights, and instead rather wants to have the drama, which of course could have some potential. With Bach being the game, he has already an additional happy face from the Colosseum. Maybe the Colosseum will make it that he has a little bit easier to defend himself, so he maybe wants to set up for the potential culture leader already, and with his last 2 civil actions he then placed the stockpile. Thanks to the patriotism, has still the full Ashoka bonus going very early, so that worked out nicely for him. I think we are still in round 3, And now here we can just see that with playing Ashoka in the last position, maybe already taking a yellow card together with him, you can activate his bonus very quickly, and then he is just a very strong leader, producing 1 resource and 1 food if you manage to get him going nicely. Now it is my turn. As I already said, will seed the Knowledge of the Ancients. I don't want to put a strength event in yet, even though I will take the Knights this turn, and I don't have a tactic yet, so I don't want to unnecessarily commit to a strength event. Instead, I will just seed the Knowledge of the Ancients, which could potentially backfire if Lech with Michelangelo will go for a lot of wonders, but I think there's a good chance that the Knowledge of the Ancients will be revealed before that will happen. The development of Great Roots are revealed now. I will definitely want to take the Knights if I now have the chance to get them for 1 civil actions, even though I don't have a tactic for them yet. That, however, means that I won't be able to finish the Rome roads this turn, because 9 would need to develop the Masonry, and then we would still need 3 civil actions to finish it with the Engineering Genius. So that means that I will delay the Roman roads now, and then I just also made a decision to take Eleanor this turn. Maybe that's something that's not really necessary, but I think Confucius is just a nice leader to keep until the end of the age, get a lot of science, and then Eleanor is just a very nice transitional leader. I could wait for another leader, but now that I know don't finish the Rome roads this turn, maybe I don't have that much else to do with my civil actions. I mean, what I could do is just increasing my population, then using the Engineering Genius and building 1 more step. Then I could still build the last 2 steps with the Masonry bonus for 1 civil action, and I could just use my civil actions relatively effectively for that. But I do think Eleanor is a very fine leader, as a transitional leader, with having a leader that produces some nice value now for the rest of H1 from HA. And so having now the chance to get a leader for 1 civil action is just not bad, I think. So I made the decision to take her, but I do think it's also fine to maybe not go for her, especially because with taking her, the iron falls down to 2 civil actions for RutgerHauer. And he has the chance to maybe just take it, go for an upgrade, which potentially could be interesting. If he goes for an upgrade, he has exactly enough resource to then finish the pyramids at the next turn, or to maybe go for even 2 more upgrades at the following turn. So I think it could potentially be interesting for him to go for that line, and if I let it stay in 3, he might not go for that, and then maybe the iron will stay in 2 for Lech, and he has really a bunch of corruption issues, meaning that now with taking Eleanor, I will maybe make it less likely that actually the iron will be available for me. So because of that, it could be considered to maybe not take Eleanor and just use my civil actions effectively, or maybe take the rich land, but I think I would prefer to just use my civil actions effectively in case I don't go for Eleanor. But at the end, I still made the decision to go for Eleanor. But I think it's very close, and maybe because of letting the iron drop to 2 civil actions, it could be better to not use her yet, and then with the last civil action I will develop the Masonry. And that is the end of my turn. Then I draw a colonization card in the border conflict. Rutger offers the trade routes agreements to me. Wants to use food as resource. I can use resource as food. That is somewhat interesting for me, this pact, because if I would be able to use resource as food with my currently relatively low amount of food, and with getting additional resource from the Rome roads, with having the Engineering Genius, I do think it could be an interesting pact for me. However, if RutgerHauer this turn uses food for resource, he has the option to just finish the pyramids immediately, and I think that is something that I don't want to allow him, and so at the end I rejected the pact, even though there is the chance that it might be useful for me. Maybe I should just allow RutgerHauer to finish the pyramids, but it's also just not that easy to tell how much this pact will exactly do for me, while RutgerHauer gets something very concrete out of it immediately, and with that I just rejected the pact. RutgerHauer doesn't go for the iron play, instead wants to score some more science with Aristotle and starts to increase his food production a little bit. With that, sadly, he makes it the iron falls down to 1 civil action for Lech. I was hoping that maybe if he doesn't go for it, it will still stay on 2, but he will let it fall down to 1 for Lech. Maybe he doesn't want me to have it. If it stays on 2, then Lech probably just doesn't go for it, and I will be able to get it for 1 civil action. And Lech seeds, the development of markets are revealed. He takes even more resource, has now really some issues to get out of corruption, but he at the end is able to get out of corruption with going for 1 upgrade, increasing his population, and building a warrior. The warrior actually might be needed because soon the event deck will flip, and then maybe the 1 additional strength might actually be useful. He still has the full Ashoka bonus, can at the next turn either finish the Colosseum or maybe go for more iron upgrades, so he definitely gets some strong production going, but is maybe a little bit inflexible with the civil actions because of the many resources and food that he has available. For my turn, it's a bit tricky again what I do want to seed, so that is a little bit of an issue this game. Either I will push a strength event, but I still don't have a knight's tactic, or I seed a colonization card, which is annoying generally, but maybe especially because I know that there's a somewhat decent colony coming, and with that, that also feels bad, but at the end I still didn't want to commit to any strength event and made a decision to seed a defense card into the deck for 1 additional science, but it definitely felt a little bit bad. The development of planning is revealed. And now, as you can see, the options are development of science, crafts, and religion. I make the decision to take the free religion here. This turn, I can finish the Rome roads, and I could use the engineering genius on it and finish it for 3 civil actions, having 1 civil action left. But I do think the cards that are on the row maybe not the most interesting to take. The warfare I think could be fine. I definitely don't want to spend 2 civil actions for the swordsman, but I also couldn't do that if I used the engineering genius in the Rome roads. And then, of course, you know that there's one card that I especially like, and below one of my last videos there was actually the comment that I'm making it exciting on whether I will go for it or not, and at the end I will go for it always anyways, and that is also what is happening here. I make the decision to not use the engineering genius to finish the Rome roads. That makes it that after finishing it I have 2 civil actions left, and it is just enough to go for the Silk Road. So I didn't use the engineering genius, but the Silk Road, the nice thing is I can build a first step with it and then still get a full value out of the masonry. I would need 3 civil actions to finish it with the masonry anyway, and so I can use the engineering genius nicely, and it might even be able to finish it the next turn for 3 civil actions. And yeah, I just think with having the masonry and in general, the Silk Road is just very strong, will give me a very solid amount of science production, especially once we will be entering age 2, but for now I still have Confucius for some additional science production. And so I just really think it's just the best options out of those options that are available. One downside is I don't want to build a warrior to get stronger, and maybe if Lech seeded some strength events I could get punished, but I myself didn't seed any strength events. Lech only seeded 1 event, so I don't think I want to get stronger here just to be prepared for the events. Yeah, so that is my turn. The second copy of Iron is coming down the road, meaning that there is a chance that I might be playing without Iron if RutgerHauer is willing to take it for 2 civil actions. He will first finish the pyramids, reveals the fighting band tactic, and then he will indeed go for the Iron, scores his 4th science with Aristotle, and that means I will have to wait for Cole. At least there is James Watt in the game. Maybe that could be an interesting option for me later on. Lech seeds, the development of warfare is revealed. He is willing to take the additional warrior with the Colosseum. He has now the happy face to make it that he doesn't have an unhappy worker, and then with his last civil action he will just, after revealing the religion tactic, going up to 5 strength, go for 1 more iron mine, is now at 6 production, still has all of those 3 cards in hand, using the Ashoka bonus fully again, and I do think he is very nicely showcasing how maybe to use Ashoka best. Just play him in the last position, get him together with the yellow card, takes, if you have the chance, some cards in hand early on that you maybe don't need immediately, but will be nice for you later on. Just keep those cards in hand all the time, get the full bonus, and then play it from there. So I do think his Ashoka play is working out very nicely, and maybe it was the right decision from him at the end to take him, even though it meant that I will get Confucius, but my Confucius was a little bit problematic, at least, with me having to seed some cards that I maybe rather wouldn't have seeded. This turn I have a card that I can seed again, which is not too bad to push, the Good Harvest, even though I don't have any food production, so maybe it will be better for my opponents, but I think it's definitely something I'm willing to push. I'm not the weakest at my turn, and actually that will be relevant. I was very glad to see that the Reign of Terror is actually out, because that definitely could have hit me otherwise relatively soon. I will take the 3 warriors, so I won't be weaker immediately after my turn, but if RutgerHauer just gets a little bit stronger, and then here I might have also definitely gotten hit by it, so I was happy to see this out, and it's a bit bad for RutgerHauer. He doesn't have a free population, also can't use the development of warfare, so he gets a bit punished here for not having a free population, and that is definitely a bit of a setback for him, losing this population that early. This turn I could just finish the Silk Road, I think it would be fine, however I missed now out in the iron. I wanted to get some more production going, and I do think I have the chance to set up for some really big science production in H2, and I do think that having some really big science production is just something that is potentially very strong, and so instead of finishing the Silk Road, I made the decision to actually go for the Alchemy here. I could also finish the Silk Road, take the Alchemy in hand, but going for the Alchemy now gives me even an additional science production immediately, which could maybe make the difference between being able to go for an H2 government farm 1 turn early or not, potentially, because I maybe will need to develop the knights relatively soon. It will take all of my civil actions. I don't take the swordsman, but I don't have a tactic for them. I mean, I could copy the fighting band tactic, but I just didn't want to spend the civil actions on them when I have this option to very nicely go for the 2 alchemy upgrades. If I finish the Silk Road, I also get out of corruption, but then if I take the swordsman, I don't take the alchemy. And so I just liked it to go for the science production, was willing to skip the swordsman here. With having drawn the vast territory, I regretted it a little bit maybe to go for Eleanor, because going for Columbus now, of course, would have been even better. Yeah, I of course couldn't know that I will draw this colony. There's no Suez Canal, and with that I'm not that much focused on Columbus as I maybe otherwise are. And yeah, with that I think it was still a fine decision, but in hindsight, now of course Columbus could have been an extremely strong leader. I can now keep Confucius for one more turn, and the next turn might be able to finish the Silk Road, or maybe I have to build some military, but I hopefully will be able to just use the engineering genius in the first step, and then maybe I also can finish it in 2 turns. I don't take a copy of Code of Laws. That would be a very nice card to have with my big science production, but I just didn't find a nice way to implement it this turn. I was very happy to see that I draw the phalanx tactic. That's a very nice tactic for me, and now need only 1 knight and then have a chance to go for a very solid amount of strength, so I was very happy about that. Now it's RutgerHauer's turn, and he makes the decision to go for a copy of Code of Laws, goes his 5th science with Aristotle, then goes for Barbarossa. He lost 1 farm to the Reign of Terror, but with Barbarossa at least he can now very nicely build some units, go up to 3 strength, making sure that he's stronger than me, also showcasing that it was indeed quite a bit lucky for me to see the Reign of Terror revealed immediately. Now I would be weakest, Lech will maybe see it now. I also still probably want to push, and would have pushed with me having at least a bunch of knowledge about the events, and then it also very easily could have happened that I would have lost the population at the end. Lech Seeds, my defense card is revealed, giving me 1 additional science. Also, maybe you noticed that I actually wasn't, and also still are, not able to defend against an aggression. That was a risk that I was willing to take, because I do think that gives me just a lot of tempo and might snowball very heavily going for these science upgrades, and I didn't want to build a knight or another warrior just to be completely safe. I was hoping that Lech won't try an aggression with me only needing 1 defense card. Lech will go for Michelangelo this turn. Next turn the age might end, so he might lose him, and also this turn he has the chance to go for the St. Peter's Basilica. That of course is a nice combination with Michelangelo, is a nice combination with the Colosseum. He has enough resource to finish it, and with that might be starting to produce a lot of culture soon, maybe producing an early culture lead. Now it's my turn, it's my last turn in H1, so I can seed 1 last time with Confucius. With having this tactic, I was now willing to seed the Crusades into the deck, and the event revealed is the Rebellion. That is the other event that I didn't have knowledge about. No one gets hit by that, so it ends up being a neutral event. And in this turn, of course, I will elect Eleanor. I could just finish the Silk Road, but then I can't build a knight and reveal the tactic, and I do think it is nice to do. I know that there are no strength events coming in the next 2 events, so I could all maybe say that I just want to finish the Silk Road. But I think it's also nice to spend the military actions right now, so that I will get more H2 draws, which are the more important draws, especially now that I have an H1 tactic that I can use for the next turn. So I at the end made a decision to first of all go for the Code of Laws. Lech didn't take a copy, didn't find a way to implement it with wanting to go for the St. Peter's Basilica, and I think it's a card that is extremely strong for me with having that much science production. I will be able to develop it and still very nicely be able to go for a government farm soon from H2, so I do think I definitely want to have the Code of Laws. I will develop it. I use the engineering genius on the Silk Road to not lose it to the end of the age. Will increase my population, and I have just enough, I will just barely manage to get out of corruption with building 1 knight and revealing the tactic, making me the strongest. The next turn I have some options to push. I will have to think about if it is worth it to push one of those events. The vast territory could be very nice for RutgerHauer, so I very likely won't be pushing this, but uncertain borders with me having a tactic now might be something to at least consider at the next turn to get additional draws from Eleanor going immediately. At the next turn I will then be able to finish the Silk Road for 2 civil actions, and will have still 3 civil actions left in case there will be something interesting from H2 already in the row, and or otherwise maybe we'll be able to take some yellow cards from H1, which are together with the Silk Road still very fine cards to get. RutgerHauer uses Barbarossa again, goes up to 6 strength, and then goes for 1 iron upgrade, goes for the Universitas, which he will be able to maybe finish in 2 turns, and then has a solid science production. At the moment is relatively low in science, but also has already 6 civil actions, some iron production going, so I do think it's a solid position, but maybe it will be a bit tricky for him to get into government form soon. Then Lech will finish the St. Peter's Basilica this turn. Could have just gone for the Forbidden City immediately, but it really does need the happy faces, so it's probably better to leave himself prepared for a strong H2 wonder. And then he interestingly grabs the cartography, probably doesn't have anything else to do which could be interesting, isn't willing to go for a very late monarchy with the Colosseum. He's nicely prepared for both Republic and a constitutional monarchy. Is now at 5 culture production after having finished the St. Peter's Basilica. I'm actually the strongest, and when we take a look at both of my opponents, RutgerHauer has a little bit of a happy face issue, Lech is just missing 1 food to get another population out, is at the moment only warriors. With all of this, I was willing to cede uncertain borders, because I want to get the Eleanor draws, but of course it has the potential to backfire, so it's a bit of a risky play, but I at the end was willing to go for it. Also, as you can see, there's an early copy of Republic in the row. The developed territory is revealed. I was willing to bid my 1 knight, but that's really not a lot. Lech doesn't even bid, meaning that RutgerHauer sadly is able to win that colony for only 1 warrior. And with having Barbarossa, I do think that it is a very nice deal for him. And I was a bit unhappy on how this colony worked out, but I knew at the time when I seeded it that this definitely has the potential to backfire, but I still wanted to get the science out of Confucius. I can finish the Silk Road this turn after the Rome roads have switched to science production as well. I'm now sitting at 6 science production. At the next turn I will have enough to go for an H2 government form. And with the Republic being revealed, there is actually an H2 government form already in a row, and with both of my opponents having no government form as well, I do think I really need to take this Republic to ensure that I get a very big boost to my civil actions already at the next turn. And then I think I do have a very solid position. I have only 2 military actions, but at least there's Catherine as a leader available. Maybe Robespierre if I really need a military action. I have having many civil actions, I might be able to take the strategy for 3 if I have the chance. With that I am willing to go for the Republic, because I do think the boost to my civil actions is just too big. And I also don't need any of those yellow cards that badly, and rather want to just make sure that I have the Republic. Also, as you can see, the draws from Eleanor gave me something nice very quickly, so paying off immediately. With that seeding, I think definitely was the right decision, even though I might have just drawn them, of course, normally when I know at the end of turn, but I have now the mobile artillery in hand, and with having only knights, I do think that is a very nice tactic to get. I then draw a colonization card and a blunder. RutgerHauer goes for knights, plays the patriotism, can use Barbarossa to build 1 knight, has already gotten a very solid amount of Barbarossa activations out, has made use out of the early food production that he went for, goes for the cultural heritage, the reserves, goes for 1 upgrade, and then also builds 1 step of the Universitas. The next turn can finish the Universitas, and together with the cultural heritage will then in 2 turns be able to go for an H2 government form if he has the chance to get one. Lech, interestingly, goes for the Kremlin for 3 civil actions, which is somewhat expensive. And then the question is, has he a nice way to get out of corruption? How does he want to spend his last civil action? And he, I think, goes for an interesting line that definitely has the potential to pay off quite heavily. He just goes for a 4th mine. That puts him at 8 resource production. He's exactly enough to finish the Kremlin at the next turn. At the moment he has a surplus happy face anyway, is the St. Peter's Basilica, so I do think the Kremlin is quite nice for him in this position. After finishing it, he has still 2 civil actions left. Maybe if there's a new wonder he can go for it immediately, and with his 8 resource production he really might be able to go for a lot of wonders with Michelangelo. And the last event in there is actually the knowledge of the ancients, meaning that he also will get, of course he doesn't know it, but with going for the Kremlin you also will get a nice amount of value out of that event. So I do think it's an interesting play. I mean, the alternatives are maybe not that interesting. Could have gone for alchemy, maybe grab the scientific method and go for a 4th iron mine, and then have the chance to go for some science production. I do think that potentially could be interesting, but maybe he has a chance to also get this copy at the next turn potentially. So I do think it's a very interesting line. He is stuck on 4 civil actions, so the Kremlin will definitely be helpful for him to be a bit more flexible with the civil actions. This turn I definitely want to go for the Republic. I definitely don't want to push the vast territory and help RutgerHauer with his Barbarossa, so I will just skip the politics phase. I have now the mobile artillery, and with that, in case I get a chance to grab the cannons, I have everything that I need from my draws. I mean, not everything, but maybe the most important thing. So I don't necessarily need to seed an event that I really don't like in the deck to get even more draws going. And with maybe not necessarily wanting to push with Eleanor a lot, and also not knowing if I will get a lot of events, with me not knowing if I will get the strategy, I do think that it's really strong for me to go for Catherine here. Now Eleanor has mainly served as a transitional leader, just giving me now some civil actions back and managed to get with some additional draws. Now I have a colonization card and a mobile artillery from H2 already, and I will just go for Catherine now, getting 3 draws from now and having some additional culture production. And in case Lech doesn't find a nice way to get stronger, which might definitely happen at his next turn, I might be able to steal a yellow token from him immediately. So I do think Catherine is actually very strong in this position, giving me the much needed third military action, maybe getting an yellow token steal off immediately the next turn, and 2 culture production is of course also not that bad. With that I will be able to maybe generate a lead against RutgerHauer, maybe not fall too much behind Lech, who is Michelangelo. And then there's of course a card in a row that is just extremely strong, and I will just, after increasing my population, getting out of corruption, go for the Ocean Liner service. I do think, even though I'm only in bronze mines, it's still extremely strong for me. I have the masonry to finish it very efficiently, and if I don't take it, RutgerHauer might have the chance to finish Universitas, take it from this 3 civil action area. Yeah, he has just enough civil actions to do that. Lech could finish the Gremlin and take it even with Michelangelo, so I do think it would be extremely strong for both of my opponents, and I also think it is still very strong for me, even though it is a big investment with me being only on bronze mines. So I do think it's very nice that I have the chance to take it here, and I will not hesitate to take it immediately. There are not that many other cards that I really would like to take, so just spending a lot of civil actions to take the Ocean Liner service I think is quite nice. I could now already use the Masonry, build the first 2 steps, but then I would still have enough resource to go for a coal upgrade in case I want to go for that first at the next turn, but with the Silk Road I made the decision to now grab the breakthrough. It might just give me 3 signs for 1 civil action. I have 8 civil actions now, and I do think that is a very nice trade for me, even though I have some fine science production. Having even more might still be nice. Like going for the strategy could be nice, going for coal, going maybe for cannons, and yeah, so I do think the breakthrough is still a very nice card for me to get for 1 civil action. Then I draw some new cards. Another colonization card. Maybe the vast territory will at the end still become seedable. On the other hand, now that I have the Ocean Liner service, I might even less need a colony, so probably still a good idea to not seed it. With me not seeding, it also meant that I get an additional resource out of the Ocean Liner service. Another reason to not seed the vast territory into the deck with Eleanor at my turn before. I now managed to get the same amount of this out of this event than as Lech, which is nice. And the 1 resource is actually quite relevant for me, with being only in bronze mines. RutgerHauer this turn will go for the scientific method, will delay the Universitas, doesn't go for the Republic, instead goes for the strategy. If he goes for the Republic, he might then miss out on the strategy and would be stuck on 2 military actions for a while. And at the next turn he can't go for government form anyway. He has lots of civil actions already, so the Conmon is probably a bit a better target, and he's waiting for that. However, not taking the Republic means that Lech will now get a very nice boost. He has the Colosseum and the Kremlin, so for him the Republic is definitely the nicer choice for a government form. He will now finish the Kremlin, and I do think his position is definitely transforming into a nice direction. He has now the same amount of civil action as I am, has even more culture production, has 8 resource production, might still be able to build some nice wonders with Michelangelo. And the thing that he is not having at the moment is science and food, so he needs to still fix those things. But if he managed to do this efficiently, he also might have a nice position. I was happy about my position, but I also was a bit worried about Michelangelo maybe just going over the top with Lech's position. And I do think Michelangelo already at this point did a very nice job and provided a lot of value, so Lech showcasing that Michelangelo is definitely a leader that you should be considering in your game plans, because he has just the potential to really go off crazy. And yeah, now it's my turn. I will make the decision to not push the vast territory. I still don't want to push into the deck, and economic progress maybe also not ideal. I might have coal mines going, definitely might happen at the time when it will be revealed. But with having the Ocean Liner service, I might not have some additional food production. Lech has 4 iron mines, so I do think it's better to maybe hold off with the economic progress. And I also think this turn I will build a knight, meaning after my turn I might actually be willing to win, be able to win the uncertain borders if those should be revealed. So not a reason for me to not push at this turn. This turn I will first of all definitely take the cannons for 2. I was very happy to get them. Now with having the mobile artillery I will be already just with having them nicely set for my military. And then I will build 2 stages of the ocean liner service starting on that one day. I don't have a lot of else that I can invest into. I think building a journalism or something would be way too expensive. The problem is building those 2 stages doesn't really get me out of corruption. So in order to get out of corruption, I also need to build this night. And then the issue is that I'm missing 1 resource to finish the ocean liner service. The next turn I definitely want to have this option, and I also want to have this option, the option to go for a coal mine. So I will definitely grab the copy of reserves. I will also take the organized religion. There's no Pierre, and with already having a religion, that's the best happy face solution that I will get. And now it's available for 1 civil action, so it's just, I think, very effective to take this now. And then I will also take the urban growth, just also very effective. But as I said, I want to be able to finish the ocean liner service at the next turn. I want to be able to maybe go for a coal mine. It could be even better to, or could be nice to go that even before finishing the ocean liner service potentially. So even though the efficient upgrade might be nice, with the reserves I'm just guaranteed to either be able to finish the ocean liner service or to be able to go for a coal upgrade. And so I do think it is fine to take this copy of reserves. My last civil action, maybe I could consider the frugality, but I have the ocean liner service. There's the good harvest coming, so I might be able to make use out of it, but I might just not need it that much. And the journalisms maybe also could be considered at some point with the ocean liner service. I might have a nice surplus of population. That could be maybe nice to have as an option, but at the end I just rather wanted to be a more civil action efficient and also more Silk Road efficient, because with developing the organized religion now I can now use the breakthrough for the Silk Road bonus, maybe at the next turn when I maybe want to play the reserves resource. I can use that card for the Silk Road bonus, and so I just make sure to activate the Silk Road this turn and get some additional value. I still have more than enough science to go for any technology that I want to. I know that I at some point have to go for the organized religion anyway, and so I can just do it this turn, get the Silk Road bonus, and then I have 1 more free civil action at a future turn where I maybe can take something better than journalism or frugality. I keep the tactic and the 2 colonization cards in hand, draw the raid and the civil unrest. RutgerHauer goes for the architecture, finishes the universitas with that, goes for 1 more upgrade to scientific method. So he has now a lot of science production. It's a tiny bit bad for him that he is missing 1 science to go for Conmon at the next turn. Even if he plays the cultural heritage, he's only at 11. He also doesn't take this copy of Conmon, so his government form will get a bit delayed. Could maybe even get hate drafted, but he has a lot of civil actions anyway. He can go for the strategy for more military actions, so if he should miss out on the Conmon, he definitely has nice ways to be fine with it, and maybe just wait for an H3 government form. And also he is going for Bach here. He has the drama in hand, and maybe also doesn't want to give Bach to Lech, who also has the dramas in hand. Lech now maybe has to go for Newton, maybe if he goes for something like scientific method. It could be a very strong leader for him. But Bach of course also might be very interesting. RutgerHauer is falling a bit behind in culture, so Bach might be a nice way for him to catch up in culture. Now it is Lech's turn, and he goes for the rifleman, develops them, wants to maybe get a bit stronger, is the weakest at the moment, gets out of corruption like this, and he is now relatively low in science, but he might be able to take the revolutionary idea. I think that's something that he should do. He also will grab it immediately, takes the rich land, and also the cannons, has now all of the military techs available. And with being at 11, strength is the strongest instead of the weakest, and I know that there's the uncertain borders coming, so because of that alone, also the crusades are coming, so it might definitely be worth it to go for the strength increase here for him. This turn there is the coal available for me. I'm at least not the weakest, so I think I can allow myself to maybe go for the coal this turn, and then maybe get stronger the next turn. There is the engineering genius available for 1 civil action, which will be nice because it allows me to go for 1 coal upgrade this turn, finish the ocean liner service the next turn while still having enough resource to build a cannon, reveal the tactic, and maybe making sure to get quite a bit stronger again. And of course it might happen that RutgerHauer gets stronger and Lech might cede, but I don't think I want to slow down my economical development just because of that 1 scenario that might happen. So I will go for the coal, play the reserves with the Silk Road bonus, go for 1 upgrade, take the urban growth, take the engineering genius. I have now 2 civil actions left. Maybe I could potentially consider to just take the rifleman, denying them from RutgerHauer. Do think if he now missed out on cannons and rifleman, it might be annoying. It could definitely be worth it, but he has the strategy, so he should probably be fine for a while without rifleman. Might be able to then just go for H3 units, even though those units are quite expensive, so I do think he really likes it to get a rifleman. But at the end I just wanted to be more efficient for myself. I don't need a rifleman, it would just be a basically only a hate draft unless I somehow still need it if I very early get an h3 tactic or something. And instead I can still do some relatively effective actions for myself. I can use the 2 civil actions to first of all use this urban growth to go for an upgrade for free. I use it without a Silk Road bonus, but I have a lot of yellow cards anyway, and this upgrade I might want to do with an urban growth anyway, and then I can only get a 3 resource discount anyway. And then with the last civil action I will build 1 step of the ocean liner service, something that I almost overlooked because I thought I had the masonry, but of course I have the engineering genius now, so sadly again, like with, actually I at the end finished the Rome road sufficiently and then used the engineering genius in the Silk roads. There it worked very nicely, but this time I can't get a perfect value out of the masonry because of the engineering genius, but the engineering genius still being a very effective card, and at the next turn I will be able to finish it in the ocean liner service for 3 and then go for a cannon and reveal the tactic, or maybe finish the ocean liner service for 3, go for one more coal upgrade if I don't feel like I need to increase my strength. I keep still the 2 colonization cards in the tactic, draw another colonization card, so hopefully there's maybe a colony coming. RutgerHauer goes for the strategy, is now at 13 strength, even after building a knight with Barbarossa. Plays the reserves, increases population, with that doesn't have an uprising issue. It's now the end of the age, will go for Bach after having definitely gotten a very solid amount of Barbarossa activations. Goes now for 1 drama, starts to maybe catch up in culture, or at least not fall behind even more, and then takes the Rifleman. Looks like a very solid turn. His big issue is probably that first of all he at the next turn still won't be able to go for a government form. He actually will let go of the last copy of Constitutional Monarchy. So he is at this point just waiting for an H3 government form. And also his issue might be that he is stuck on a relatively low amount of population with only having irrigations. So that might be an issue for him. And because of that, I do think at the moment, we will take a look at the overview soon, but at the moment I thought that RutgerHauer has maybe the most challenging position, but of course with Bach and maybe getting an early H3 government form, there is still a lot possible for his position, but I do think he has some issues that might put him into tricky situations soon. Lech Seeds opens the call to arms. So no uncertain borders revealed, which is good news, but I will lose 2 civil actions, at least get 2 draws, but when we take a look at the draws, those are not really the most exciting ones for me, so I will just lose 2 civil actions, and that will actually cost me a little bit. I could have taken a breakthrough or maybe the selective breeding with that, as we will see at my turn, so maybe it costing me 3 or 4 signs at the end. Definitely a painful event, but I still was happy to not see the uncertain borders, and in next turn I might get stronger, so I think that at the end is the more relevant event for me. Lech goes for the revolutionary idea, will go for scientific methods. The remaining leaders are very late, but he knows that Newton is still coming, so he might be able to go for Newton and with that go for a very nice amount of science and even more civil actions that he can work with. He will use Michelangelo 1 more time. Maybe a tiny bit questionable because it might be relatively late when he will be able to finish the Eiffel Tower. When he goes for this upgrade now, he can't finish it at the next turn, but he also can take it relatively cheaply, and maybe if he finishes it in 2 turns it might also be fine, but he might also still want to go for food upgrades, so we will see how nicely that will work out for him. But with Michelangelo it might be fine to still also go for this Eiffel Tower, especially because combined with the St. Peter's Basilica it's actually giving 2 happy faces, so that of course makes the Eiffel Tower also stronger. Now it's my turn. I definitely don't want to push. I just offer the acceptance of supremacy because why not try it? Maybe Lech for some reason is afraid of me and might accept it, but of course he rejects it, and then at my turn I definitely want to finish the ocean liner service. I will use the engineering genius. I won't use the urban growth this turn, otherwise I would have need to use the urban growth first to get a Silk Road bonus out of this card, but I will use the engineering genius this turn, finish the ocean liner service, get 1 population increase going immediately, develop the cannons, build 1, reveal the tactic using now H2 draws so that I will get more H3 draws going. I could have gone for a coal upgrade, but there is the uncertain borders and the crusades coming. I do think it is definitely nice for me to get stronger and also use the military actions now in H2 instead of H3. And then I have still 4 civil actions left, and I made the decision to just take 2 yellow cards, first a wave of nationalism and then also the breakthrough. I think both of them are just very nice for me, especially with the Silk Road bonus. I still don't have the most resource production, so I think the wave especially is very relevant. With 2 more civil actions, as said, maybe I could have just taken another breakthrough, maybe the selective breeding to have a way to get out of famine, but there's another selective breeding coming, so probably I would have taken the breakthrough, or maybe just frugality in cavalryman or something like this, or maybe just increased my population and taken 1 of those cards. So yeah, it hurts a little bit losing those civil actions, but at least I got now the chance to get stronger and maybe have the chance to win something like Crusades or Uncertain Borders, or maybe at least not lose them at the end. I will draw the international trade agreement, which I was happy about, because it's just nice being able to offer that, and I also was very, very happy to see the Uncertain Borders revealed here. Instead of losing it when Lech ceded at the last turn, I will now be able to win it, and Lech will lose it. So even though I lost to the Call to Arms, I was still very, very happy about this outcome, about the event order, and yeah, I do think the additional yellow token will be nice for me, but it also, as we can see, is very painful for Lech to lose it. He will now even lose 2 more because the age will end. He has a big uprising issue, he has famine issues, so soon he has at least still some food saved up, but losing this yellow token is quite annoying for him. RutgerHauer, with it still being age 2, has still the chance to play the cultural heritage, will develop the bread and circuses to have a happy face solution, goes for the navigation as well, which is interesting. Maybe he has seeded some colonies, but the science investment might also make it that he has to wait even longer to get into an age 3 government form. But yeah, might still be a nice card for him, makes it that he is the strongest now again, takes the breakthrough, and then upgrades the temple to theaters, going up to 9 culture production. Now it's Lech's turn, age 3 will start, and he won't push. He offers the promise of military protection, wants to get additional strength, but RutgerHauer is rejecting this pact. And then he has some issues, as said, needs to fix his uprising issues, willing to destroy a farm in order to build a religion, and then at least makes it that he doesn't have any minus production any longer. Actually isn't waiting for Newton at the next turn, instead just wants to get a bit of value out of J.B. Swat. And of course there's always the chance for an early oil or maybe an early mechanized agriculture being revealed. So I do think it is maybe nice to just go for James Watt, get a bit of value out of him immediately with the selective breeding and have a lot of potential for later on. Maybe it could also be an indicator that maybe Lech has seeded an iconoclasm in the next deck. And now, after going for this iron upgrade, he is still not out of corruption, but he can get out of corruption with building 1 step of the Eiffel Tower. So he's still the weakest, but yeah, both of my opponents have a bit of issue with their food production. Both have only 1 farm, both are sitting at +0 food production. Lech, because he is now at this area of the yellow bank, so the Uncertain Borders definitely hurt him quite a bit. And now when we take a look after the production at the overview, we can maybe compare the civilizations for a moment. Lech, with having had Michelangelo still in the culture lead, but overall the culture is relatively close. RutgerHauer is starting to catch up. Now the Rome road switch for me into culture production, so I'm sitting in 7 culture production, so culture is relatively close. Both of my opponents have good science and good resource production, with Lech having more resources and RutgerHauer having more science production. However, Lech has 2 civil actions more, has a government form going already, and with that probably has the stronger economy, while RutgerHauer maybe has the easier way to maybe get some culture production going with Bach, but as long as he doesn't have a government form, he can only stay on those 2 dramas, so might not be able to increase it a lot more. So I do think his position is maybe the most trickiest, but he has catched up in culture, and if he somehow manages to get a government form going relatively quickly, I do think that he can still have a very fine game. And for me, I also still liked my position. I have a nice tactic, which might allow me to maybe nicely take the strength lead in H3, maybe even be a bit threatening if I get the military theory going, a card that definitely would be strong for me. And I have a lot of population with the ocean liner service. I have only 5 resource production for now. At the next turn I have to see if I will just invest all of my resources into this upgrade or if I want to do something else, for example to get stronger. That will be the question, but I have this international trade agreement which can maybe help me to get at least 1 additional resource production. I have a solid amount of science, lots of civil actions, so I thought my position definitely is very, very solid, but it's also not that much stronger than the position of my opponents. The nice thing for me is I have everything nicely covered, lots of civil actions, while both of my opponents, as said, have still a lot of issues with their food production, so I think that is my big advantage and I maybe have to try to capitalize on it. At my turn, I could have seeded a freedom of movement. I definitely will be nicely able to use it with having the mobile artillery tactic and still some warriors sitting around, so that I can put a warrior into cannons maybe. But instead I wanted to get the international trade agreement going as quickly as possible, because I will get stronger this turn. There's actually the Crusades, for example, still in the deck, so I might be able to maybe get more value out of the Crusades potentially. And I also get a resource production going earlier, offer the food to RutgerHauer, because it will take a while for him until this food will actually be relevant. At least when we take a look at it how it is now, but sadly both copies of mechanized agriculture are coming down the road for my opponents. which will be helpful for both of them. I was a little bit annoyed by this because that might just give them a nice way to fix the weaknesses. I might take one copy away, but there's also still a copy of Selective Breeding, which of course might not be that great, so I might be able to remove a copy of Mechanized Agriculture, but I do think that the Selective Breeding is actually the better card for myself, because I just want to avoid famine issues, and then it's just cheaper in science and resources. So I will have to see if I will be able to take one of those, or maybe take this for cheaper, or maybe don't take one of those at all. And yeah, I offered to RutgerHauer because Lech, for him, maybe it will be making a difference quicker, but with the Mechanized Agriculture, both of them might be able to get a bit of food production going anyway, but I also thought that RutgerHauer has the weaker position, and I rather wanted to help him than Lech. Then Ocean Liner Service, I will use the Ocean Liner Service, I will increase my population normally, giving me 2 free population. I could now potentially go for an iron upgrade, but it would mean that I would be missing 1 resource when I use the wave to build another cannon, and I do think it's nice to maybe get a bit stronger, maybe putting a bit of pressure on my opponents potentially, taking the strength lead, maybe being able to win the Crusades, and this upgrade is relatively late, so maybe it could still be worth it, but maybe it could also be fine to stay on 6 resource production, and together with the many civil actions in the Silk Road, I might still be able to get a fine amount of resources. And actually, I will make the decision to go for Churchill. If you took a look at my games, took a look at my video about which leaders and wonders I had in my World Championship games, you might remember that I actually take Churchill relatively rarely, at least in the World Championship games. So this time I will give him a chance. And with having him, I also maybe have the chance to get more resources if I need it. And so it might still be nice to go for this upgrade, but I at the end made a decision to rather play the wave now for 4 resources at least, which is not too bad. Build a cannon, going up to 22 strength, maybe putting a bit of pressure on my opponents, especially Lech, being the strongest for the Crusades and potential other strength events, then taking the Patriotism and taking the reserves. Both of those cards are very nice with the Silk Road. Then I have 4 civil actions left. I could think about denying the Mechanized Agriculture, but as said, the Selective Breeding is the better card for me. And at the end, I thought it's maybe too expensive, but it's definitely something to consider. I could just take this copy of Urban Growth, but I have already an Urban Growth, and who knows how quickly I will be able to use the second one. And then if I take one of those cards for 3, I have only 1 civil action left. I can't do that much with it. Maybe take the Journalism, which could still be fine to have, but now at this point I can maybe also wait and hope to get a copy of Multimedia, and if not, maybe just some other nice stuff like movies, computers, or something like this, or maybe just go for a lot of military if I get the military theory. And at the end, I rather made the decision to first of all go for Churchill and also take the Selective Breeding, because it is just nice with my nice amount of science to maybe just being able to go for an upgrade and with that fix all of my famine issues instead of having to start building some additional farms at some point. Churchill is maybe an interesting pick because it's not the leader with the highest ceiling, so committing to him now is maybe a bit questionable, but if you take a look at the leaders, there definitely could be some interesting ones. If I get a chance to get computers, Sid Meier, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs are strong, but I might not get a chance to go for computers and soon, and then there's only Gandhi and Chaplin and Fleming. Chaplin and Fleming are not really doing a lot for me. So if I don't take a leader now, I'm maybe a little bit dependent on getting some of those urban buildings going to then get a fine leader. Could maybe be fine, but I thought Churchill is just a fine pick. I can now spend my civil actions to have a leader already, maybe giving me the chance to have more free civil actions at one of the following turns. And Churchill will just be very fine, and in case I do get a military theory and maybe the chance to go for a war, he also might be quite a strong leader, giving me maybe some science and resources. So at the end I just thought I want to use my civil actions to take Churchill here. But I will keep him in hand for now, because for now the military action from Catherine is just too relevant. As soon as I hopefully will at some point will get the military theory, I then can maybe start electing Churchill. I will get 2 draws for now, no impact, but a very interesting tactic. The Mechanized Army, I was happy to draw it, because that definitely could give me quite a bit of strength potential if I should get the tanks. RutgerHauer seeds and opens the Crusades. Again, just after getting stronger, I am able to win a strength event, which is very nice for me. With that, I'm getting a lot closer to Lech. I think I've even overtaken him now, but of course he has 1 more production at the end of his turn. RutgerHauer takes the rockets for 3, he doesn't have an artillery technology, knows that the mobile artillery is available to copy, so he goes for it, dispense a warrior, dispense another warrior, builds 1 rocket, takes the Mechanized Agriculture, and at the next turn maybe can start to get some food production going. Now it's Lech's turn. He will sadly offer the military alliance, but of course I also got a nice pact, so now my opponents have also a nice pact going, making them a little bit safer. He will then finish the Eiffel Tower this turn, so he still managed to finish it relatively quickly. Is now at 9 culture production, will go for the mechanized agriculture with James Watt, has now enough food to increase his population at the next turn, and with the remaining civil actions will go for computers and the urban growth. Doesn't go for the multimedia, which maybe could have been also interesting, but maybe is afraid that he doesn't have enough population for it. And as we saw, there are some nice computer leaders in the game, so I think the computers definitely might be very relevant for him. Now it is my turn. I'm the strongest. I have an event that I can push that will be nice to either put a warrior into maybe cannons or knights, or I will go for multimedia this turn to maybe put something like an alchemy into multimedia. So while maybe the others could also get something out of it, I thought it's just nice to push this into the deck. The event revealed is the Good Harvest, that also was seeded by me earlier on, which is now not really that great for me because I have the Ocean Liner service. My opponents, it's just a bit helpful for them now. It's not ideal, but maybe also not too bad. I will then use the Ocean Liner service this turn, and as I already said, I will go for the multimedia. I could also go for computers myself, but now that I've committed to Churchill, I do think the multimedia is just a nicer card to get. I hopefully have enough population to support it. It gives me another nice option to maybe use the freedom of movement. So I will go for the multimedia. I will actually not use the breakthrough and I will develop it because I rather want to get additional resource out of the urban growth. I still have enough science to go for everything that I want to after building the multimedia. I'm at 18 for the next turn, so even if I for some reason want to go for communism, I can do that and then still use the breakthrough. And I just delay the decision, or maybe either I can use maybe the Silk Road every turn on all of those cards, or I just delay the decision on what I need more, science or resource. At the moment I think it's looking like I need resources more, so I rather wanted to now get a Silk Road bonus going with this urban growth than with the breakthrough. And it could maybe cause some tiny hand space issues, but hopefully that won't be the case. And then with my remaining civil actions I will take the efficient upgrade. When I looked at this, I thought I definitely want to take the reserves and then let's see, maybe efficient upgrade, maybe military build-up, but I at the end actually made the decision to take the efficient upgrade and the military build-up, which is maybe not the correct decision. I do think the military build-up is definitely the correct decision because I only need to reveal the mechanized army tactic and already I can get 5 resources out of it, more than a reserves, and I might want to build some more military anyway, potentially. And it just has tons of potential in 3-player games. It gives you the potential to get 10 resources with 1 yellow card. It's just crazy, and if you are able to activate this potential, it just gives you a big bonus, and I can have that card for myself now, and also at the same time take it away from my opponents. But maybe I could have taken the reserves instead of the efficient upgrade, just being more flexible. I thought that maybe I still want to go for 1 coal upgrade at the next turn. It will be very late, but with the efficient upgrade it's also very cheap, and I thought it might still be worth it, and I can maybe use that card very nicely, and if not, then at some point I definitely will want to go for the selective breeding. I can also use it for 4 resources. It will be more efficient than the reserves, and I also have already a reserves in hand and a patriotism, so I have already some flexible cards, or maybe some resource for the military in hand, and I thought that maybe then the efficient upgrade and with it just being a bit more efficient could be better than the reserves, so I do think it's reasonable to take it, but maybe just being a bit more flexible and also taking a reserves away from RutgerHauer, who maybe can't use the efficient upgrade that easily because maybe he wants to go for the mechanized agriculture upgrade already at his next turn. I thought maybe it's at the end better to go for the reserves, but there are some reasons to go for the efficient upgrade, and I do think that the military build-up is maybe actually the strongest cards out of those. In the last civil action I will take the satellites, nice card for a lot of impacts, gives me some relatively cheap additional strength, and so I also wanted to take that for 1 civil action. Now I will get 3 draws going, and I was very happy to see that I actually draw a war and also the impact of competition. So with my H3 draws so far, Vlada is maybe putting me a bit into a military direction. If I get a chance to get a military theory soon, I do think that is a very strong option for me. Of course I might need tanks, ideally air forces, but it is now a nice option that I have available for myself. Now it's RutgerHauer's turn. He seeds, opens the wealthy territory, and as you can see I'm actually able to win it, bidding 9 for it. That was also my maximum bid, because I just thought I don't need those warriors anyway. There's of course the freedom of movement coming, but I can also nicely put an alchemy into multimedia. So I was willing to bid both of those warriors and all of my colonization cards. I don't know if there are more colonies coming. I could regret it if there are some strong H2 colonies coming, but I thought the additional resource might definitely be nice to have, and maybe I can also just take some defense card out of RutgerHauer and then maybe be better prepared for an H2 colony that might be coming, and at the end I am able to win it. I still remain the strongest and I have now 6 additional resources available. RutgerHauer copies the mobile artillery tactic, already making him the strongest. He goes for the oil, and before he goes for the mechanized agriculture, actually goes for the oil, which is a bit of an interesting decision. Because I do think additional population might be very relevant for him, and also it's an investment of 9 science, and if he still wants to get into a government form and for the mechanized agriculture, it could definitely be that it will be very tricky to achieve that. He's some cheap dramas. As soon as he gets a government form, he can maybe build more of those, especially if he has population, so he maybe doesn't need a lot of resources necessarily. So while an early oil can be nice, it's at this point not that early anymore, and I'm not sure if it is the right decision to go for it, but it has some potential. Maybe it's not, I actually have knowledge about economic progress, so that event is not coming. Maybe he has the impact of industry in hand already, builds a bread and circuses, takes the revolutionary idea. With that, at least he has still enough science to go for something like democracy or fundamentalism at the next turn, but not enough to also go for mechanized agriculture, so he might remain with relatively low population for a while. I was very happy to see that both copies of military theory are dropping after RutgerHauer's turn, meaning I'm guaranteed to get one of those at my turn. Also a copy of tanks is coming down the row, so my military plans maybe are starting to get a bit more real with those cards coming down the row. Lech Seeds opens the prosperity, everyone gets some additional food, which of course helps my opponents probably a bit out than it helps me. Lech will then go for one more up, or actually builds an additional mechanized agriculture. After that we'll go for Bill Gates, is now 12 resource production, has lots of food production, still some very decent science production, goes for the cannons, and after that takes the engineering and the reserves. If he goes for computers, he can really get something big going with Bill Gates, which I maybe would like to disrupt a little bit. And with the tanks and the military theory being available, I of course immediately checked for my next turn if I can maybe set up for something nice. And the answer is I can set up for something nice, which also comes with maybe some risks, but I at the end still thought it is worth doing, because of course I can just build maybe more multimedias, play it peaceful, but I do think I have a very nice option to maybe threaten something, and I do think it's likely that I can get a war going at the turn after. And even if I don't manage to get it going, at least maybe it prevents my opponents from doing something nice. So even though I could just play it peacefully, I thought with Lech having Bill Gates now, maybe I should rather force this a bit into a military direction. And I do think I have a good chance to get a war going at the next turn. So at my turn I will first of all push. I am the weakest, I could get punished for it. But I also thought I want to use my politics action because I might not have that many left. And the impact of competition will be nice with me going for a bunch of military now. I don't get punished, instead a freedom of movement is revealed, and I make the decision. I will go for some military plans, but I still wanted to get one more multimedia going, having even more science and culture production I think is quite nice. Then I use the ocean liner service to increase my population. And then this turn I will just mainly build a lot of military using the military build-up, which is very nice. I am now the weakest, so I'm not only getting 5 resources out of that, but actually 10 or even 11 if I use it with the Silk Road bonus. The big question is, do I want to use the Silk Road bonus on the patriotism this turn or the next turn, or want to play the patriotism with the Silk Road bonus this turn or next turn? At the end I made the decision go for it at the next turn, which is maybe a bit of a commitment if I at the end don't get a war going. Maybe I could regret it. And I do think my reason why I do go for not using it and then actually using the breakthrough this turn for the Silk Road bonus is maybe a little bit flawed, because I didn't check one particular thing, but we can take a look at this at the end of my turn. I will use the military action from Catherine to reveal the mechanized army tactic, will elect Churchill, take the military theory, develop it with the breakthrough using the Silk Road bonus, play the military build-up for 10 additional resources, go for the tanks, use Churchill. I have now 13 additional resources for the military, 3 additional science for the military. If I would have used the patriotism and not used the breakthrough for the Silk Road bonus, I might have even had 17 additional resources for the military in this turn, which is quite a lot. And then I will develop the tanks, build a cannon, build another cannon, upgrade 2 knights to tanks. And with that I'm at 47 strength, and what I think is very important, even though it's a bit of a commitment, after increasing my population normally, I will then also build an additional tank. And then I think for the last selection it's just very nice to take this copy of reserves. Building this tank, is I think quite important, because it allows me to, even if I don't get air forces, and it's not that likely, it's definitely possible that I might get them, but it's not something I can in any way count on. And I don't want to only be able to go for war if I get air forces. air forces. My war will be better if I go for air force, because then I can just declare war, build 2 of them, also maybe go for satellites. Or actually not, I have already my science production, I won't be able to go for satellites. But still go for air forces and then go for building 2 of them would put me at 82 strength, which is very nice. But if I don't get Air Force, at least I have now the chance to declare war, go for 2 more cannons, go for the satellites, maybe if I really want to also build an additional tank or something, even though it would be a bit costly because I would have to delete some stuff, but I would have the option for it, and also I could get some war going, not that efficient, with a bit less strength, but 2 cannons in the satellites will at the end give me plus 19, so 71 if I build an additional tank, which I have the resources for, and also the military actions, thanks to the patriotism, I will be able to even go for 76, and I do think 76 or 82 are an amount of strength that is very threatening. Hopefully I will be able to go for war. RutgerHauer might be able to go for mobile artillery with air forces, but he might not be able to go for enough armies to really overtake me in strength. For Lech, it depends a little bit on, has he a nice tactic, can he very efficiently and quickly set up for this tactic, maybe get air forces and then threaten enough strength. I do think there are chances that he can set himself enough nicely to defend. But for RutgerHauer it will be difficult. However, there is the chance that Gandhi will now be revealed in the next 4 cards. Then RutgerHauer could go for Gandhi, and I could not declare war against him at the next turn already. And that could be a bit dangerous. Then there's the chance that maybe Lech finds a way to set himself up nicely enough. And if I then don't get air forces, it might just not be worth it to go for a war. So that is a bit of a danger, but it's maybe not the most likely outcome. And I did think that, there is a very good chance that I will pull over for war at the next turn, force my opponents to react to this, making it that they maybe can't that easily invest into more culture production. And so at the end I went for this a little bit of commitment into the military, and hoping that I will have a nice way to win this war, even though of course my opponents will also now be able to use the freedom of movement, which of course helps them to set up a nice defense. Now back to the reason why I wanted to use the breakthrough. Actually, it's now I realized it's not really any reason, because I could also just use the breakthrough at the next turn for the Silk Road bonus. I do think it was actually a mistake, because I could just of course use it at the next turn with the Silk Road bonus, and I do think the resources are maybe more likely to be relevant. I thought that if I go for Air Force at the next turn with Churchill, I'm at 14, and then with developing the air forces, I have 5 science left, so now I have enough to go for the selective breeding as well, because maybe there's the chance that it might be my second last turn. But that is flawed in one hand, that I can maybe also just use the breakthrough the next turn for the Silk Road bonus, so I could delay basically the decision on whether I want to get the additional resource or not. I could maybe just get a draws earlier with the patriotism now, and even though I do think if I play the patriotism I use another civil action, maybe I kind of want to take those reserves. Maybe that was also a reason. I think maybe that was actually also a reason that I didn't want to spend a civil action this turn on the patriotism already, because I do think otherwise it would have been just better, but now I can take this reserves for one civil action, so I do think probably that was the reason. But I thought about how much science do I have at the next turn, and I thought, okay, when I use now the breakthrough, I can, with the Silk Road bonus, I have enough to go for air forces with Churchill and enough to go for the selective breeding. But it is also flawed, because at the next turn, if I will go for a war with air forces, actually, if the air force are on 3, have not enough civil actions left to develop the selective breeding, actually, so that will only be relevant if the air forces are on 2, so not really relevant. But the civil action that I need to play the patriotism, that is a relevant reason, because it would, if I want to play this turn the exact same way, I would not be able to take the reserves at the end. And as you can see, things are... I was not happy to see that Gandhi is revealed in the next 4 cards. So now it could definitely a bit backfire that I committed heavily. If Lech now finds a nice way to defend himself, I might not be able to pull off this war very nicely. So RutgerHauer being able to get Gandhi is a bit dangerous, because it makes him safe from a war, and it makes him even that safe that he is now willing to just invest all of his science into the democracy, will go for more culture production, so he is now just using Gandhi to his fullest extent, just ignoring the military pressure for the most part, and going up to 12 culture production as now the democracy. The good news is he is actually still a bit behind in culture. I'm with having my 2 multimedias, I'm producing a nice amount of culture. I have Churchill for a bit more culture production if I don't use him for the military bonus. So it's not like it's if I don't get a war, it's gets over the game or something, but no, then maybe those investments are not that nice now with RutgerHauer getting Gandhi, but of course Lech now first of all has to find a way to maybe set himself up nicely for defense. Lech seeds, the popularization of science is revealed, which actually gives me the most culture with having now 2 multimedias. Lech will increase his population, builds a rifleman, goes for computers actually, takes the reserves, the military theory and the civil service. And that is maybe not, he doesn't have the chance to take air forces yet, and if he gets air forces, he has the chance to maybe threaten to go for 2 cannons and 1 air force and revealing the positional army tactic. That would give him plus 24 from the tactic. 2 air forces would 1 air force and 2 cannons would be 35, so he would be at 68. He would not have enough science to go for the military theory. He doesn't have enough military actions to actually do more. Maybe he somehow could have built another cannon and to threaten this, but he's actually also missing 1 resource to achieve that. And of course he could hope that I'm afraid of something like economic progress or arms industry, but no, he at this point is not able to threaten enough strength, I think, even if he gets air forces. So a war might still be possible for me. But there might be a lot of different ways how he can set up. He can of course go for military theory, disband a lot of stuff, build a lot of stuff. But I do think he can't really go for a lot more than 70 or maybe even not 70. So that means that I can go for war. Lech made sure to not reveal a lot of cards, making it not that likely that I will be able to get air forces, which may make my war more efficient and also more threatening. So he makes sure that, or tries to make it less likely that the air forces will be revealed, but he does get unlucky here because I actually have the chance to get air forces. So it's a bit unfortunate for Lech how it went. After I prepare for the war, RutgerHauer immediately has the chance to grab Gandhi, and then I will get the air forces, and he doesn't have the chance to take them already. And no, that is of course unfortunate. I will now declare war against him, play the patriotism for the additional military action and military resources. I then destroy a mine, build 1 air force, and now we can see that it could potentially have been bad, could have backfired to not use the resource at the next turn, at the turn before, because now I will need to play another reserves in order to achieve that. But no, it's now not the biggest issue, and then I said in the turn before I wouldn't have been able to take this copy of reserves. I built 1 more air force, I'm now at 82 strength, and then I just don't have any civil action left, with there still being 14 cards being left at the moment, with Lech maybe having to spend a bunch of civil actions to defend himself. I do think it's actually quite likely that there will be another turn, and now of course I was very interested to see what cards I will draw, because those draws might be quite important to maybe still use my politics actions, but overall with getting this war off, even with air forces, I felt like I'm in a very nice position. But if Lech pulls off nice defense, or maybe if he even resigns, even though there is no reason I think for him to resign, because he could still score a lot of points with impacts and Bill Gates, even if he loses the war now. RutgerHauer seeds and opens the inhabited territory. Both Lech and I are not willing to bid for this, so RutgerHauer has the chance to win it relatively cheaply, which is nice for him. He then builds another drama, a 4th drama, is now at 14 culture production, takes the fast food chains, the efficient upgrade, the reserves, and also the endowment. Doesn't get stronger. Also, of course, you saw my draw just. I have an armed intervention that I can play, so I do think it's quite a nice draw. Lech seeds, and the next event revealed is another colony. So now we see why RutgerHauer went for the navigation. He again is willing to win and able to win it for just 1 unit, so gets some cheap colonies going for him. Lech has the chance to go for air force, but makes the decision to rather go for a turn with developing military theory, which might have the reason behind it that actually the next turn he might be threatening against RutgerHauer, because thanks to having 2 additional military actions from his wonders, he has now, even though he is in Republic, 7 military actions. So he can declare war against RutgerHauer, and he will actually take both of those copies of patriotisms this turn. So RutgerHauer at his next turn actually has to play it quite carefully, otherwise he might get hit by a war by Lech, and that is probably the reason why Lech went for the military theory instead of doing something with air forces. I didn't check exactly how much strength in different lines he would be able to achieve, because I thought with my 82 I should be completely safe. So yeah, maybe the military theory is also just better, but of course it needs him more, spending more workers, meaning he has to destroy more, is now at 53 strength, and yeah, that means that I will actually be able to deal quite a big amount. He then develops the cavalry, maybe just for the culture, maybe to threaten the modern army tactic. I have one of them in hand, but he could have the second one, and then he plays the reserves, gains some additional resources, and yeah, with that is a bit threatening against RutgerHauer with having those patriotisms and maybe yeah, just being able to threaten the modern armies or just being able to build a fourth defensive army. RutgerHauer definitely has to be careful now. But the age doesn't end yet, and for my turn I have a bit of an interesting decision to make, because I have this armed intervention that I definitely want to play. The question is, do I want to play it against RutgerHauer? Against him it will be a guaranteed success, and I also thought with getting now a lot of culture stolen from Lech that RutgerHauer is probably my biggest contender now, especially also with having the fast food chains. Or do I play it against Lech, who is not, that is not certain, but relatively likely to be successful, but a big advantage would be that I would still be getting another 3 draws, giving me the chance to maybe get an impact or an aggression, while when I go against RutgerHauer I just don't get any draws, and I know that it will be my last politics action that I use. But with RutgerHauer probably being the bigger contender, with playing it against Lech, it would not be guaranteed as successful, and with that I thought that I have to play it now against RutgerHauer, and just getting another 14 culture swing against him after stealing 34 culture from Lech, putting me now at the 60 culture lead before him, and then an even bigger lead after I get this armed intervention off. So I was very happy how things went for me in the last turns with drawing the war and the tactic, getting military theory and tanks, and now being able to pull off this war and also getting an aggression. Now it's my second last turn. I can increase my population. Not only RutgerHauer, but also I have actually to be a bit careful, because if for some reason RutgerHauer decides to not take the Air Force, which I think is unlikely, but who knows what happens, then there's a chance that if Lech has the modern army, he could actually still get quite a high amount of strength against me, more than he can go against RutgerHauer, because he has more free military actions to work with. So I wanted to at least leave myself enough resource to build one more army, and then together with satellites that hopefully should make me safe, especially with my big lead. I don't think Lech then, even if he somehow manages to go for a similar amount of strength, it isn't enough to overtake me, and with that hopefully he won't go for it. It's very unlikely that this all will happen anyway, because RutgerHauer likely will just take the Air Force away, but still I think I'm in a comfortable position. I should take unnecessary risks here, because I thought about you building a multimedia now this turn, playing the reserves, and then building a multimedia, but I will instead build an organized religion, and with that leave myself with enough resource to build 2 cannons at the next turn. I will take this urban growth. This will allow me to just build more stuff in my remaining turns. And again, I made a tiny bit of a flawed decision here, because I thought that it is very nice to play the reserves now before using the efficient upgrade, getting 1 more resource out of it, and then I can get urban growth with the Silk Road bonus at the next turn, because the efficient upgrade I can use only for 4 resources anyway when I go for a farm upgrade. Then that is of course true, but the reason why I wanted to have those resources is because I will now, after building a multimedia at the next turn with the things I will be doing this turn, I have to build an organized religion. I go for this upgrade, and then I will develop the satellites. And I thought that at the next turn, when I build the multimedia now with the urban growth, I will have 4 resources left afterwards, and for some reason I thought that I still have 2 free population after building this, meaning that 4 resources left would mean that I can build maybe a farm and a mine, preparing for impact of harmony, balance, agriculture, industry and stuff. So I thought it could be nice, but actually I have only 1 population left, and I probably don't want to delete anything, because deleting a unit would cost for the impact of competition, and everything else is also somewhat costly to disband. So I think that is again a somewhat flawed reason, because instead I thought it could be nice to maybe take something like rockets or professional sports, probably rockets, to maybe give me the option to use a resource, also to maybe go for an upgrade for 1 point for the impact of competition. And also, in case the impact of technology is in there, which is maybe not that likely, because my impact of technology is quite big, but my opponents can also still develop some technology, so it could at least be somewhat of a neutral impact for them. And with that, It could be nice to have one more tech in hand, because the technologies that are coming down the road, I can't actually use that nicely. Movies might be gone, air forces and tanks I can't develop, and there are no technologies left in the deck, I think. Or actually there is the multimedia, but that one I also have already developed, so I might not be able to get another technology going. Could have delayed developing the satellites, but it might just be heavily punished if the impact of progress is in there, which might be the case. It could have been seeded by RutgerHauer, who has only seeded one impact, but it could be the one impact. So no, I think I could have just delayed playing the reserves the next time. I mean, maybe the additional resource that I have because of playing it now and using the Silk Road bonus could be relevant, but I made a mistake of thinking that I actually have 2 additional population after building the multimedia, which is just not true, and maybe it could have been more important to just have a technology that I can develop and then also letting the air forces drop down to 1. It's the question if I want to do this, because I think RutgerHauer wants to deny it anyway, so it's probably better to leave it expensive for him, but it's maybe also nice to make it even easier to take it, that there's nothing weird happening with maybe Lech pulling off something, but I think with me leaving enough with the Churchill resources, enough resource to go for 2 cannons, I think I'm completely safe, so it's probably better to let those stay in 2 civil actions. I don't draw any cards, meaning at the next turn I won't be able to perform a politics phase. RutgerHauer offers me a loss of serenity, wanting to make it that Lech can't go for a war against him. At least something to think about. I would get more culture, RutgerHauer less culture, and I also would have needed to think about if maybe Lech can pull off that big of a war that he actually could be threatening again. But I thought if I reject this, RutgerHauer has to be careful. There won't be a big war happening. If there's a war happening, I think that would be in my interest, because it will just make it that players are maybe not that nicely prepared for impacts, even though there's of course the impact of competition coming, which they then probably would be better prepared for. And so I rejected this because I wanted that RutgerHauer, who I thought is maybe still the more threatening opponent, even though Lech is not that far behind, but he doesn't have a wonder. Could maybe go for the internet, but it is a bit costly for him to take it. Also gets the Bill Gates bonus, maybe some better impacts, so I don't think Lech is out of the game, but I thought maybe RutgerHauer is a bit of a bigger contender, has also still the endowment for a little bit of additional culture, and I just wanted that he has to be careful now and can't just play it very greedily with his turn. He will go for the tanks and reveals the mechanized army tactic, and then goes for the air forces, builds one is not fair, 9 strength, should be able to be relatively safe with just threatening to go for another tactic. Now it's Lech's turn, he can't go for a war, he sees the impact of wonders is revealed, which is the best for him with having had Michelangelo, but also nice for me, scoring myself 3 points against RutgerHauer, and Lech will in this turn go for 2 revolutionary ideas. Maybe wants to go for a bunch of technologies, meaning there could maybe be the impact of technology coming out. Maybe he also just takes them because he doesn't have anything else to do, because he won't be able to spend them on anything, but maybe if he takes some other cards he also can't really use them, so maybe it was to deny the multimedia. No, RutgerHauer can't use the multimedia, so maybe just they didn't have anything else to do. So going into last round, RutgerHauer doesn't even have that big of a lead, but Lech made a decision to not go for wonder, maybe instead prepare himself nicely for impacts, and with that RutgerHauer will probably get into the final impacts with a lead. Now it's my turn, I will increase my population. I definitely want to build another multimedia, to also make it that it's completely certain that in case Lech has seeded an impact of science, I will finish before RutgerHauer in the science production. And then I have now, thanks to playing the reserves at the turn before, 4 resources left, but I have only 1 free population, meaning I can't build a farm and a mine very easily. Could build a mine for impact of industry and impact of balance, but the biggest difference is when I build an additional farm, because then I get a big boost for the impact of agriculture with +5, so I wanted to prepare for that, because it's an impact that Lech could have seeded, who has seeded the most impacts. Of course, impact of balance is also very likely, with Lech having a very nice balance going for him at the moment. Maybe I could have also built a mine. I don't think it makes a big difference. It just depends on what impacts they have drawn. So I at the end just went with the farm, as it makes the biggest difference for the impact that it is relevant for. Then I just take the internet and end my turn. RutgerHauer plays the endowment for 3 points, finishes the fast food chains for 19 points, plays the reserves resources, increases his food production to be better prepared for impact of agriculture and impact of balance, destroys an H1 mine, builds an arena, and with this ends his turn. Lech goes for another impact, opens the impact of happiness. That one is a little bit bad for me. I get 12 out of it, both of my opponents 16. And then Lech will go for one copy of movies for the engineering, and then builds a movie, destroys a religion, builds another movie, is at 16 culture production, and then ends his turn. And when we take a look at the culture before the final impacts, we can see that I have a relatively comfortable lead. I thought that should be enough to win the game. RutgerHauer also has a comfortable lead against Lech, but that one is maybe not as comfortable, because Lech will actually get a big Bill Gates bonus, has heated a lot of impacts, and has also a bunch of impacts that could be nice for him, so it might still be exciting between RutgerHauer and Lech. So the first impact we see is the impact of variety. That one is actually good for me and good for RutgerHauer, so probably the impact that was seeded by him, giving him +6 against Lech. But then there's a very nice impact for Lech, the impact of science, making it that Lech catches up 14 points to RutgerHauer, and I have now a very nice 40 points lead before the second place. There's the impact of strength, which was probably also played by Lech, probably to just catch up 7 points to RutgerHauer, and he is getting closer to him now, still has the Bill Gates bonus in his pocket. Then there's my impact of competition, which gives RutgerHauer +14, and Lech will get +18 out of it. So again, he catches up a bit, and now it will depend on the last impact. It is the impact of balance, and that is again a very strong one for Lech, meaning that he will actually overtake RutgerHauer even before he will get a Bill Gates bonus, and with the Bill Gates bonus, he has at the end even a 10 points lead before him, and I at the end was very happy that I managed to win this game. Yeah, I do think this game went quite nice for me, with some things just going very nicely for me. The event order was sometimes quite nice, with the Reign of Terror at the beginning being revealed immediately, the Uncertain Borders being revealed at a nice time. So I do think that was mostly nice for me, the event order, and then also getting a tactic very early, getting the Republic very early. I do think things went relatively nicely together for me, and then also in H3 with being able to go for this war. But I also think I played, quite solidly. I didn't make a big misplay, and managed to set myself up nicely. Of course, as so often with the Silk Road, my new favorite wonder, but also the Ocean Liner service. That of course is a very strong set of wonders, also together with the Roman roads. And yeah, so at the end, with pulling off this war, I managed to win this game for Lech. He played a very nice Michelangelo game, which I think he just managed very nicely. Before that, a very nice Ashoka game, so he managed to get a lot out of his leaders, at least from H1 and 2. Bill Gates, of course, was also quite nice. He then in H3 maybe was a bit unfortunate for him that I could set up that nicely for a war, and then RutgerHauer managed to get Gandhi, making it that he was the only available target for me. He got hit by a big war, but he has shown off that his position was quite strong, even with losing that much culture, even with not finishing an H3 wonder. He still at the end managed to finish before RutgerHauer and scored the second position in this place. In RutgerHauer, I thought had for a while in the game maybe this weakest position. He was behind in culture in H2, delayed his government form for a lot, but he still then got Bach, made it that he catched up in culture, and then with getting Gandhi, the democracy, definitely out of the sudden, I thought was the bigger contender for the first position, and thought maybe I need to be focusing more on him, but at the end, Lech was then still the one who finished at the second position. Yeah, so a nice start for me in the new Intermezzo Championship season in the Master Division, and there have been 2 other games finished where I wasn't involved, so we can now take a look at the standings with 3 games having finished already. And the best start out of my opponents probably had Funestus, because he managed to win 1 game against Arne and Lech, and then also managed to finish a game where he tied for first place with RutgerHauer, and Arne finished last in this game as well. So Funestus started the season with 8.5 points, continuing his nice form from the last International Championship season. I'm of course also happy with my start, with being able to win the first game. And then the other opponents maybe didn't have the ideal start, but still a lot of games to come, so they can definitely still play for the promotion to the Grandmaster Division. Lech with being in 4 points, RutgerHauer with being at 3.5. For Arne, he probably needs to focus now on not getting relegated. He is at the moment at 0 points, but still has enough games left to score some nice points. Yeah, and with that, the first game from the Intermezzo Championship is over. I hope you had, it was an interesting video for you. I hope you're looking forward to the other games to come. Also, there will still be the last remaining game of the Royal League coming. And yeah, then I say thanks for watching. Check out all of those channels that I have now always linked in the description of my video. And then yeah, have a nice time and see you in the next video.